So it's always challenging when we go through these changes and we need a little help. And doing this for 26, 27 years and then caring for my own father prior to that, I've never yet had someone say, man, I can't wait to have a stranger come over to the house and cook me a meal and help clean up and help me take a shower. It's just not reality. It's not human nature. I also think it's really important that we be honest with our loved ones about what their options are and that they know all of the options. Because sometimes, if you really look at staying at home with a little bit of help, it's probably way more attractive than moving into a different living environment. That's an honest conversation. It has to be a nuanced conversation, and we're pretty good at having that conversation, giving people their options, being honest with them, and then finding the best resource for their specific situation. So I'm Buck Shaw. I'm the owner of Home Instead Senior Care, serving Sacramento, Placer, El Dorado, and Nevada counties. Been doing that for about 26 years. Today, we're going to talk just a little bit about how to maintain your independence and your freedom, something that we all value deeply. Number one, transportation. If you really think about it, transportation is independence. It's our ability to go where we want, when we want, do the things we want. And I think we underestimate as healthy people sometimes how daunting that is, that it's really an acquiescence to losing your independence when you give up your car and your ability to drive. It's hard for people. So it's really valuable to have someone who can take you to appointments, take you out, get a cup of coffee, do some shopping, go to the grocery store, the pharmacy, or the doctor's office. It's critical to our independence and quality of life. So while driving is critical to our independence and we value that deeply, it's also really, really important that we make this decision appropriately. Obviously, driving with cognitive impairment, impaired vision, or any kind of degenerative situation, it can become very, very dangerous. And not just for the loved one that's driving, but for other people on the road. It's important that we have this conversation. It can be done in a nuanced way, but we don't want people out on the road who are a danger to themselves and others. So number two, medication reminders and management, super critical. The percentage of people living alone who aren't compliant with their medications, it's like in the high 60 to 70%. It's one of the reasons people end up back in the hospital many times when they don't need to. So med management and supervision becomes very important. A caregiver can come in, oversee the med tray, make sure those meds are being taken properly. We can take a somewhat aggressive stance in making sure those meds are being managed properly and taken properly, but it's really critical that the medications be sorted out properly and we're compliant with what the physician wants us to do. The reason it's so critical to manage these meds is, number one, we find that many people are taking multiple medications, sometimes older medications that they should be done with. Sometimes they don't complete a course of medication because their immediate symptoms are getting better. But for so many reasons, it's critical that we manage those meds the way the physician wants them managed. It prevents unnecessary readmissions, falls, unusual reactions. There's just so many different scenarios where med management can really become a critical health issue. Number three, nutrition. It's probably not likely that I'm going to get your grandpa to adopt the ketogenic diet, right? Or primal or whatever meat. Well, there's a million diets now, right? But what we can do and what we do well is we want to influence just a little bit of movement towards better nutrition. Foods that typically seniors eat, packaged foods, are super high in sodium. Many of them are super high in sugar and additives. Real whole food cooked with the senior cooking with you, by the way, is ideal. Getting them involved in preparing a meal. Oftentimes, this will take them back and trigger them to times when they cooked or times when they were in their youth with their loved ones. And so nutrition is really important, and it really does matter. Food is medicine. What we eat does dictate how we feel in many cases. We try to have a positive influence on nutrition and diet whenever we can. And importantly, the social interaction that goes along with a meal. That transitions to number four, which is super critical, and that's companionship. I can't state enough, guys, how important it is that people have social and human connection. We've had clients over the years who had every medical need met by the best doctors and scientists and physicians, pharmacists are out there, and they were not thriving. In fact, they were diminishing quickly. Connecting them to a human being who cared about them, who got to know them, who knows their background, who knows when to be quiet and when to speak up, to connect with them. It is the medicine that we as human beings need the most. It's fundamental to our quality of life. So companionship comes in a lot of forms, guys. There's a lot of different ways we connect to other human beings. Look at our communities and the culture we're in, church, our spiritual beliefs, outings to things we love, museums, art, reconnecting people perhaps in some way to whatever their avocation was. If they were a railroad engineer, they may really like to go to the Railroad Museum in Old Sacramento, for example. Connecting people to those things and other people and getting out and experiencing those things, it is a form of companionship, and it's critical. We need community. We need each other to thrive as human beings. companionship that connects those dots when done properly. So number 5, mobility and exercise. Super important that we continue to move. We have a saying that it's the law of inertia in physics. It's that an object in motion stays in motion and an object at rest stays at rest. We want to be objects in motion. What happens sometimes as we get old and we have an injury or a setback, we then start to favor that setback. Maybe I hurt my knee, for example, and then I don't really rehab my knee properly, and so I start to favor that knee, and then it changes my gait, and then I'm less active, and I'm afraid to walk up the stairs. So as we start to go through those changes and favor these injuries or whatever it may be, we lose our independence. We start to get ourselves into an environment where we're locked into certain routines, and we're not able to move, and we're not able to get out. We don't get out in the sun, the fresh air, the light. We don't go out and meet people. It becomes a form of slavery that kind of keeps us locked in our homes if we're not careful. And if we're locked in our homes and we're not with other human beings, that's a formula for serious problems to come. Super critical that we continue to move. And again, guys, we're not doing CrossFit workouts over here. We're simply getting people to move, breathe air, get out in the sunshine. One of the things that was so horrible about the COVID environment is we had clients who weren't even willing to sit in the backyard because they were fearful that this virus was going to fly through the air and jump on them. And I understood that fear, but the impact that it had on people's mobility and ability to move around and particularly socialize was really impactful and really damaging. So one of the things I love the most about the home care environment is it really allows you to encompass all of these elements, to design a care plan to make sure that each of these are getting the amount of time and attention that they need, overall impacting your quality of life and extending your quality of life. We find that if we can get in ahead of the life-changing environment or the huge damaging setback, we can leverage quality for a long time. If we're coming in after a serious problem, after someone's got an advanced dementia, after someone's lost their ability to move or they've had high levels of acuity, our role is still super critical. But what we love is when we can get proactively ahead of these things, encompass all of these things that we need to thrive as human beings, leverage that quality of life, and move that bar. So to do that, you can reach out to us anytime at livehomeinstead.com. We're happy to have a care manager call you or come out and visit you, answer any questions you have. We can also be a resource to other senior resources in the community if you need things besides home care.